Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's edition of the Deep Fried Draft Show. My name is Brian Bosarge. I'm your host for this evening. Tonight, we got a very special guest from Fake Pigskin and does some work for Steelers Depot. We're going to bring on my good friend Shane P. Hallam. We're going to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers 2021 draft class. And Shane, are you there?
How's it going?
It's going, man. Been going all week here, doing a draft review with different folks. We had Pete Smith on talking Browns. Had Jeff Risen last night talking about the Lions. So I figure, what better way to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers than to bring you in?
I'm looking forward to it. It was an interesting draft to sit through as a Steelers fan for sure. It was a few years, and maybe going back to kind of that old school mentality for the team. So I know the city's been pretty excited about it.
Yeah, it certainly seemed like, especially with at least I know three of their picks. They seem to have that Steelers mentality, so to speak, or the way Steelers used to play ball. Starting with the first pick, Alabama running back Najee Harris definitely fits that mold.
Yeah, he does, and that was clearly the different team. I think everyone knew if it was there that he was going to be the pick, right? And I think the Steelers were kind of getting weary of, was he going to be there? Was someone going to jump and make Najee Harris? And he fits the mold of what the owner really wants, right? They want another Le'Veon Bell. They want someone that can bang between the tackles and make guys miss and be tough but still catch the football. Najee Harris has that. Now, personally, I'm not the biggest Najee Harris fan. I think out of this draft, this pick, the first round pick is always kind of the linchpin of the draft, but I feel like this is the one pick that could go a little bit awry. I don't think he'll be bad. I think we know what he did this past season, but I think the age worries me that he's going to be 23 and a half when he starts his rookie season. And so how much of his production of that great tape that he had this past year was because he was 2-3 years older than a lot of the young college players playing. In the NFL, you don't have that kind of luxury. So I'm interested to see. I kind of lean that he's more, Leonard Fournette than Jerome Bettis or some of the Le'Veon Bell, some of the classic Steelers running backs, which still is fine. I think that's something that they can still utilize. I think they're still good. I just know. And if you're taking a 24, I think that's what you ideally want out of that running back. You want someone that's going to be a top 5, at least a top 10 running back in the NFL. And I think just the question of, is a running back worth a first round pick is intriguing. I used to be, and I used to be very anti running back in the first round. I think the 5th year option makes it a little bit more viable now, that you can take a running back because you get that 5th year option and then you can kind of let them go. I don't know what Najee Harris would have to be. He'd have to be, Saquon Barkley or the best running back in the league, I think, to get a second contract in 5 years. At 28 years old, I don't think there's a way they ever give him one. You get that extra year, so you at least have the 5. So I don't love the pick from my end. I understand the pick, and I think character-wise, off the charts, he's a great player, great person. Already has shown that in Pittsburgh. The team in the city will rally around him. So I hope he does well, obviously. But I wonder how he'll fit Matt Canada's offense. I wonder if he's really elite. There's still a lot of question marks, and that's going to be interesting to be answered.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not a big running back first round proponent. And I actually liked ETN better than Najee Harris. I think I've told you that before.
Me too, yeah.
for Pittsburgh, I believe it makes it, Harris probably fits what they want to do more than maybe ETN did. So I get it. And, but that brings me to their second round pick, Pat Freiermuth, the tight end from Penn State. Is he the next Heath Miller? Is that what they're envisioning here?
I think they made the splash signing with Eric Ebron, one of the rare kind of bigger money signings from the Steelers. They don't spend that kind of money. And I don't want to say it's a complete flop, but Eric Ebron's been less than stellar, dropping passes, and his blocking's actually gotten better in Pittsburgh, but he's not a blocker. And I think Pat Freiermuth isn't someone you watch on film, you say, oh, this is an elite, blocking tight end right now. But I think he was good at it. I think he has all the traits, just like Heath Miller coming out of Virginia. They weren't asked to do that a ton. When they were asked to do that, I think Freiermuth and Heath Miller, Freiermuth was probably better than Heath Miller at blocking coming out, better than even Matt Spaeth, another Steelers tight end they drafted in Minnesota, who became one of the best blocking tight ends in the league. So I think Freiermuth has that two-way ability, and that's really what they want out of this pick. Add in kind of the soft hands, a very reliable catcher. He's not fast. He's not, super athletic. It would have been great to get some testing on him, which we couldn't because of the injury, which may have made him fall more. I think. I don't think he would have tested out of this world, but he's quick. I like his agility. I like how he makes. He doesn't take on big impact tackles. He definitely kind of sidesteps, and like a running back, doesn't always take those direct hits. So I think he is someone that can survive and hold up here. So there was a lot of criticism of this pick, for everyone was like, we got to go offensive line. Many people in the first round in Pittsburgh wanted that. And then when it didn't happen, okay, they went running back. We knew it was going to happen. Second round, center. I was said they got to take a center. They got to take an offensive tackle. I take Freiermuth. So I think the blocking aspect is going to be a big part of his game, especially early on, especially with Ebron still on the roster one more year. I think Freiermuth would be more of a number 2 blocker and let him train up in that. And for the future, I think that's probably his role. So, I'll say one more thing too about these first 2 picks. And maybe something we can get into at the end if you'd like a little bit more. The Steelers are going for a title this year. Shouldn't, I think is, from my perspective, I think it's a stupid thing to do. Had 11 wins in a row. They feel like Ben Roethlisberger's almost done. They got to try, and they've been kind of kicking everything down the line. I do think these first 2 picks and this draft as a whole on offense is also a draft that will help Mason Rudolph in a year, or a young quarterback, right? You have your running back. You have a tight end safety valve, and Pat Freiermuth is going to be really good. And we'll get the offensive lineman. So I do think there's a little bit more of an eye on the future than maybe it seems. That, hey, we could put a quarterback that's not great, and these guys can kind of lead the charge. And I think that could be a possibility of Freiermuth leaning him over an offensive lineman as well to kind of get that for a young quarterback or an experienced one in Mason Rudolph.
Yeah, for sure. They've got to be all in, right? Because, this is probably the last ride of Ben Roethlisberger. Last year probably should have been the last ride of Ben Roethlisberger, if we're being honest. But, I guess you give it one more shot, kind of like the Saints did last year with Drew Brees, and the end results did not quite match up to what they had hoped.
Yeah, I think it will end up similar to that for the Steelers. Unfortunately, I don't think they're one of the best teams in the NFL, even if on paper the starting lineup looks decent.
All right, I'm going to skip the next 2 picks because I want to talk about the third guy I think probably fits that old school Steeler mentality, and that's 4th round pick linebacker Buddy Johnson from Texas A&M. Neck roll, wears number 1, 230-pound middle linebacker. This guy looks like a football player, right?
I thought it was a good pick. He wasn't someone I had kind of on the radar for them that they seemed interested in. There's always Steelers really pick players they're interested in. I think Buddy Johnson was one that was a little bit, maybe they're hiding what they liked a little bit more. But I think this is great because we saw last year when Devin Bush went down, it was kind of a mess. They had some players emerge there. Then Vince Williams getting re-signed before the draft, I thought, maybe they'll just not worry about inside linebacker at all. But I think Buddy Johnson, like you said, has that keep the play in front of him. Big tackler, big hitter. He's someone that wraps up really well, tackles well. I think he is what Vince Williams is for them. I think that's fit in. And, Vince Williams, a prospect, I think was worse than Buddy Johnson, but Williams really developed into that kind of player with that hard-nosed lunch pail mentality. Buddy Johnson's going to bring that. So I hope see some of him as a rookie because I think he's a good fit. I thought it was a solid pick.
Yeah, I was really high on Buddy Johnson. He ended up grading out at like number 42 overall on my board, and the Steelers get him at pick 140. So, yeah. I mean, it was a very good value for me. His athletic testing was phenomenal, not something that you probably expected based off the tape for him to test as well as he did.
Yeah, I did not expect he was not one of those linebackers I thought would test well. And then once he did, then it's kind of this cognitive because he was one of those players that I went back after the testing was like, I got to watch him again. Like, is he this athletic? And then I was like, I don't think so. So now what is he, right? Like, is he an athletic or is he not? Can he do everything? I think the upside's there at 140 to take a shot on that. And like I said, I think worst case, he can push me the athletic linebacker. Buddy Johnson can just do what he did in college. I think he can start down the line.
You talked about him not dressing offensive line with the first two picks, probably to the surprise of most of the fan base. And they do it with the next two picks in the third and fourth round. We'll start with Kendrick Green, played guard at Illinois, maybe projects to play center here for Pittsburgh.
100%. Yeah, I think this is going to be the best pick of the draft for the Pittsburgh Steelers when we look back in 5 years. I think we're going to say, wow, how they get Kendrick Green at 87. Now, look, I like Quinn Miners of Water. He was a Senior Bowl guy, so maybe you can talk about him a little bit too. So I really thought if he was there, which he was sitting there in the third, they're going to take him. They went with Green. But I get it. I think Green, once again, has some of that nastiness, that kind of ass-kicking mentality. And that seems to be what this draft was for the Steelers. Like, let's get guys that are going to be physical, that are going to make you make the opposing side fear them. And I think Kendrick Green has more of that. Playing guard at Illinois. I mean, when he got his hands inside, he just used that strength as advantage, pancake guys, got guys on the ground. And so, I mean, I think that's exactly what they wanted. They want someone in the middle who has the intelligence to kind of command the line, who's able to grate the road and make some ways and push some guys around, some big guys around, make some gaps for Najee Harris. I think that's going to be the goal. So I think Kendrick Green could start at center this year. I think that's a real possibility. There's not much on the roster right now for the Steelers, and he's probably the most talented. Now, can he catch up in terms of, can he catch up to BJ Finney in terms of like the mental acuity needed to start at center in the NFL? Maybe not. Maybe he's not there week one. But I'd be surprised if we don't see him start this season once he catches up to the offensive scheme and offensive system. The other thing is, and we didn't talk about this too much with Najee Harris, is I don't know what the Steelers' offense is going to look like. Matt Canada is a very different offensive coordinator than they've had ever. He's a zone blocking scheme guy. He's, reverses and using these different things. I don't know if Ben Roethlisberger is going to be comfortable with that. I don't know if the Steelers are going to fully convert to that. That is something Kendrick Green, I think, can do. I'm not sure if you agree with that, but I think Kendrick Green could play, a little more. And every team uses both, but the Steelers have traditionally been a gap scheme, and I think Green probably is a little better as a zone blocker with the ability to push forward a little bit. So I don't know. I'm excited for this pick. He has some of the best highlights of any center prospect in this draft. And I'm actually fairly happy they got him instead of Landon Dickerson or Creed Humphrey, like most of the city wanted.
Yeah, I also had Quinn Miners as rated ahead of Kendrick Green, but I also had Wyatt Davis ranked ahead of Kendrick Green and several other players that they could have possibly had earlier. The other offensive line pick they made, Dan Moore Jr. from Texas A&M. Believe he came down to he was down to the Senior Bowl. Was okay this week. That week, him and his teammate Carson Green were both down there. Tell us about Dan Moore Jr. and then I have a follow-up question on their offensive line.
I think Dan Moore was a pick to fill a little bit more than, hey, this is a slam dunk, big upside player. Like, I'm not sure Dan Moore's ever going to start for the Pittsburgh Steelers, with everyone healthy. Like, I think he's a tackle guard. I think he's much better at guard, but I think he's a swing backup, which they like to have. They like to have a player like Zach Banner that can play guard, that can play tackle, that, hey, there's an injury here, right guard for 2 games, and then he can move to right tackle for 3 games and whatever. I think Dan Moore brings that versatility. And I think he brings a mentality of, knocking guys down, getting guys out of the way. Doesn't always have the best technique, plays with a little wide base. He can play a little upright. There's a lot of technique things that I think need cleaned up that they're really going to try to clean up with him. And I'm not sure he's athletic enough to really have a good kick slide at tackle. I think if he plays tackle, it'll be a bit of a liability because of that athletic footy. But I think a mentality that, the athletic skills are there for like a pulling guard. I think he could be a very athletic guard that could be very good. So if, Dotson or DeCastro go down, I think Dan Moore could fill in, and you probably won't notice that much of a difference. I think it's kind of a versatility pick when, we didn't really take offensive line high enough. Now we need a guy that can back up both those positions, maybe 4 positions on the offensive line. And he can do it. So I don't hear Dan Moore Hall of Fame anytime soon. I guess someone can clip that. If he does, then I'll look really dumb. But I think we'll see him fill in for a game or 2, not lose too much, and that's what the Steelers really need. Yeah. So I don't know how you feel about Dan Moore, but I'm a little ambivalent. It probably would have been my choice ultimately.
They picked him about where I had him. I think I had him at 120 overall. They got him at 128. So about where I expected him to go. Last thing on the Steelers offensive line, on paper right now, are they the worst offensive line in the AFC North? Because I think they are.
Oh, I don't think so. I don't think it's – I mean, I wouldn't say they're like definitely better than in the AFC North. I don't think they're that bad. I think there's one position at this point that I really question. And that would be left tackle, which isn't a good position to question. But I mean, I think you still have David DeCastro, who wasn't healthy last year. I think he'll play much better. Kevin Dotson played great last season. I think the guards are good. I think Chukwueze was very good at right tackle, and I think Kendrick Green can fill in at center. I think Zach Banner at left tackle wasn't great, but it's not bad. He was playing well. I think the offensive line weakness is a little bit overstated, just because of what happened late last season. And we're going to see we're going to see 3, really new consistent starters on that left side. And I think that should help. So do I think it's like definitely better than the Bengals or definitely better than, the Ravens? No, I wouldn't say that. So, I mean, you could say it's the worst. I don't think it's that far below what those 2 teams have right now.
I mean, I would say them and Cincinnati are probably pretty even at this point as far as overall talent goes. I like Zach Banner as a person. He's one of the coolest guys I've ever talked to at the Senior Bowl. But no. Steelers' next two picks were guys I had listed at edge, although I don't think that's where they're going to play Isaiah Loudermilk. Probably going to be more of that 5-tech outside defensive end in their scheme. I'm more enthralled with Quincy Roche as the in the potential edge off the edge rusher for them.
I think was a slam dunk. I don't know. I really thought at least a round or two higher. If you would have told me they took him in the fourth, I wouldn't have said no. I think the production and the fit is so good. Is he ever going to start him? He's a 6th-round pick, so even just making the team would be pretty big. But they need depth. They just don't have depth. I think he can back up T.J. Watt and Alex Highsmith, and if he has to fill in, once again, are you going to have – obviously, T.J. Watt, you're going to lose a lot with anyone filling in. But Alex Highsmith played well last season. I think Quincy Roche can back up both those positions, come in, as needed, and I think he'll be okay. I don't think he'll be a great pass rusher, but I think the production and the effort are there. You got to recognize him, or he'll get to the quarterback. I think he gets the edge okay. So I really like that pick. I think that if you tell me in 5 years Quincy Roche is starting for the Steelers and is solid, then I wouldn't be super surprised, even with that being a late round pick. The Loudermilk pick is interesting. I don't love giving up a future 4th-round pick to take him. Once again, I think it was an issue of the Steelers had, this many needs, 9 needs, right? Really, that they had to fill in terms of filling out the roster, and they had 8 picks. So I think they had to get a backup in that 5 technique at some point. They have 2 older players in Cam Hayward and Stephon Tuitt, who are very good, but aren't the healthiest. And Loudermilk, I had him rated much lower, at least a round or 2 lower. And once again, especially give him a future 4th. But it's a good fit. He's not going to give you that pass rush that Hayward gives you. I don't think he's quite as good at, setting the edge and having the wingspan to take down running backs in terms consistently like Tuitt can, but he could throw in a pinch and be okay. So they must have really liked him. I think to give up that future pick and say, hey, we just want this guy. But I was a little bit surprised, to be honest, at the selection. It fits, but I didn't think it was that much of a need to make sure you had an extra pick player.
Yeah, to me, and I know maybe there was some people questioned because of the deal, but you see a guy like the Marvin Wilson from Florida State goes undrafted, and the talent was there 2 years ago, and to me, put him in that same position as Loudermilk, and I think you get a much better player, and you wouldn't have even had to pay a draft pick for him, or you definitely don't have to give up an extra 4.
Yeah, or you want extra 6 for a 7th rounder and get him. I would have been happy with that. Teams must have just slashed his name off the board, completely, which I think is the difference between us and NFL teams. We can't take a player off our board, right? We got to rank everybody, and teams can just be like, no, not that guy. He's an asshole. Marvin Wilson's out. So I agree with you. I think they could have used one of their 7s or, given up a future 6th and probably taken someone on Loudermilk's level in the 7th round from my end. But I think, once again, if you would tell me that Loudermilk in 5 years, he started a few years, he was solid, it wouldn't surprise me. But is he going to be, an all-pro? I guess almost no way.
Yeah, you probably at that spot in the 5th round, I could have probably threw a dart at the wall and come up with 10 better guys than I would have rather taken than Isaiah Loudermilk at that point.
Agreed.
No offense to the guy, might be a great guy, but I could, that was easily the biggest reach on anything that I thought the Steelers done, and for them to give up a 2022 pick, it's a bit asinine to me.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. I think that I just think giving up that future pick, is really what kind of does it. I forget what publication kind of graded the trades that trade value-wise was pretty good. But I think 2022 is just going to be so much safer of a draft when we have a season and a combine and things that will, I think, really help teams. I don't want to give up that kind of draft capital personally.
Their next pick coming to 7th round, pick 245. It's Oklahoma cornerback safety nickel Trey Norwood. Poor athletic testing for sure, but he had some production at Oklahoma and had a decent week at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, I think he's nice. Once again, it's about versatile backups. Like, okay, he can play nickel corner, which the Steelers desperately need some depth at nickel corner. He can play safety. The Steelers desperately need depth at safety. He can play special teams. So, hey, here's someone that can make the roster just based on versatility, who's a smart player and decent at what he does. Probably the biggest, I don't want to say dropping of the ball for them, for the Steelers, was in draft. They must like James Gare a heck of a lot, and I'm not sure Trey Norwood fixes that. I think he likely profiles more as a safety. That's where I had him rated rather than a corner, but he could play nickel and it'd be fine. So I think it's another versatile backup. Hope he makes the roster so we can maybe he can fill 2 spots on the roster instead of 1.
For sure. I like Norwood on tape. I'd say I liked him. He was okay. But, if he makes the team, it's a bonus, I guess, for Pittsburgh at this point. Speaking of bonus picks here, they take a punter in the 7th round. The only punter drafted, the biggin from Georgia Tech, 260-pound Presley Harvin III. What do you think about drafting punters and kickers and long snappers, Shane?
Look, I'm fine drafting a punter, a kicker, a long snapper. We had 2 go. I don't know if I can. And what Carolina gave up a future pick to take a long snapper. I don't know if I can get on board with that. But look, the Steelers needed a punter. I wrote an article for Steel City Insider at the beginning of the 3rd day, and I pegged Dan Moore, Roche, and Presley Harvin as targets in the draft. And I think Presley Harvin, just having someone that has a big leg, and the big thing with him, I think the big difference is that he has some control over it. He's not always the best in terms of hang time. He'll take the coverage some, but he's really good at placing punts, which is not something the Steelers have had success with recently. So add in the 260 that he could tackle, which is, I don't know. Some people think it's good. Some people think it's bad. You don't want your punter tearing an ACL on a tackle, but he's a big boy. Like, he can play punter. He could probably play linebacker. So I like him. I don't have much fun watching punters, but he's a punter when you see a guy that big kicking the heck out of a football. Like, it's kind of fun. So I like the pick. I hope he wins the job. I think that he will love him if he's good. Not even great, but a good punter.
Undrafted free agent, Steelers brought in 8. I'm not going to talk about all of them, but I'm going to talk about one in particular. Now, I know their wide receiver is probably one of their deepest, if not their deepest position on the team, but I'm kind of intrigued, despite the piss-poor pro day he had, is Kent State wide receiver Isaiah McCoy. Got a chance to watch them a couple of times this year, and he was awesome to watch on tape there, but, man, that pro day was bad. But he's got good size, and I'm intrigued to see if he can make the roster.
Draft receivers to make the roster, whether it be him or this great depth at the receiver position. So it wouldn't surprise me. I like McCoy's game. I think he's a good player. I think he's pretty quick off the snap. I think he has a shot. I think Busty's pretty solid too. So, the Steelers usually find 1 or 2. I'm trying to think if there's any others. Shakur Brown from Michigan State, another terrible, terrible, terrible pro day that took him out. I thought he had a shot even at the top 100 before that pro day, but he's another one that could make the roster. So, and the Steelers, they don't have many players on their roster, so this is a good year to be an undrafted free agent for them.
Another one, you mentioned the Steelers need at nickel corner, and you said that could be a spot for Norwood. I think competing with Norwood there is going to be Mark Gilbert from Duke, who had over 500 nickel corner snaps in his career.
Yeah, I thought undrafted class for the Steelers wasn't robust, but it was solid all around. Like I thought they made good. Mark Gilbert, draftable. I had Shakur Brown rated as draftable. McCoy and Bussy were just outside of that. So I think they definitely looked at positions that were needs that they needed depth. And yeah, I think we'll see. It wouldn't surprise me if Gilbert actually beats out Norwood for a spot. Like I think I had Gilbert rated slightly higher. So I hope to see it. And the Steelers have been very fond of undrafted corners in the past, including, like I mentioned before, James Pierre is probably going to be the number 4 for them. So it's a big position.
All right, last thing, Shane, and I'll let you go. I've been asking everybody about how they think the team that they're talking about projects into the 2021 season. Is it safe to say that the range of outcomes for Pittsburgh could be anywhere from a 4 to 5 win team to a 11 to 12 win team that makes the playoffs?
Yeah, I think that's possible. I think 4 to 5 wins is doubtful. Once again, I think the team will do what they have to do to push for winning this season. But the schedule's really tough. Like the road schedule's really hard. I think it's more likely they struggle 8 wins, 9 wins, sneak into the 7th seed, that kind of deal. I think is likely. They could be one of those teams that wins. Look, I'm talking 16 games, 17 games now, or whatever. So I gotta adjust my my records, I guess. But I think they could be one of those teams that loses all their road games and wins all their home games. Wouldn't be very surprising to me. I think they can compete with everyone in the division. Are they much better than anyone in the division? Nope. So I think we could see them go 8-9 or 9-8, maybe sneak in if they get 9 wins. And hopefully, I don't know. And I think beyond is going to be super interesting. Has Ben Roethlisberger done? If he's done, is Kevin Colbert, the GM, hang him up? He's going to retire soon. And now you get 1 year of Mason Rudolph as a bridge to the future. That's coming. And, I personally, I'm hoping for a really bad 2022. I want 2 wins and DJ Uiagalelei from Clemson. So that's my ultimate dream.
Everybody's passing on the 2022 class already. Looking forward to DJ Ukulele there from Clemson.
Yeah. Look, I'll take Bryce Young. That's fine too.
All right. I said that was going to be the last question, but I'm looking at the depth chart now, and Dwayne Haskins' name sticking out over there to me. Is he done, or is he have a legit shot to be the future quarterback in Pittsburgh?
Nah, it would take he would have to. Move planets. I think, he'll be on the practice squad and he's not going to be on the roster. I think it's going to be tough for him to really win that over. Is it possible? Sure. I think if he can make it through this season on the team, then we're talking. Now he could be the backup in 2022 to Mason Rudolph. And if he shows well, he could have a shot at some point, but I think the odds are not in his favor. I know. Oh well. Look, hopefully the next high-state quarterback here will let it up about my OSU quarterbacks.
All right, Shane. Well, I'm gonna let you go, man. Tell everybody where they can find your work.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Shane P. Hallam. Writes at fakepigskin.com, steelcityinsider.net, 24/7 sports. You can check out my podcast, the Debbie Marketplace, wherever you get your podcasts. You can check it out. I appreciate you having me on, Brian, and I hope to talk to you soon, man.
Yeah, I think the next time we talk on this here video, maybe we'll make a big announcement for everybody. What you think, Shane?
Yeah. We'll do it sooner rather than later, hopefully.
We'll do that. Thanks for coming on tonight, Shane.
Yeah, thanks.
That was Shane P. Hallam, writer at Fake Pigskin. You can follow him on Twitter at Shane P. Hallam. And Pittsburgh Steelers, man, they could go any number of directions this year. Shane's more confident in Pittsburgh than I am this season. I think they're a fourth place team in the AFC North. That could be my bias showing. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Well, that's going to do it tonight for this edition of the Deep Fried Draft Show. We're going to take tomorrow off. We're going to be a little busy here at the old homestead. And but we're going to come back Monday. We're going to have Jake Arthur from SI Colts. We're going to talk about the Indianapolis Colts draft. And we've got a couple other guests lined up next week to keep this draft review series going. So until next time, see you.